and Katara, strong female characters done right. For those of you that are unaware, I do female characters done right, and I do OP characters done right. And I do Avatar videos. So this is kind of exactly my home territory. I feel like between different videos I've made, between the one talking about Toph as an overpowered character done right, the one talking about Toph as a female character brilliantly written, I feel like I've made this whole video between my other videos. So I'm very excited to jump right into Master Samwise's insight. Let's see what we got.
If this video does well, maybe I'll get my wife to write a counterpart video for Toph or Eowyn or Galadriel. This Galadriel. Well, I guess we owe you a Toph Katara video. I'd like to formally apologize to my wife for volunteering her, but since she loves Avatar: The Last Airbender more than just about any other show, I think she'll forgive me in
Based wife.
time. Modern film has a strong woman problem. It sucks at writing them.
Oh my god, I literally just... Dude, I literally just made a video that I titled in the worst way I possibly can for the sake of the memes. Check it out, for the sake of the memes. For the sake of memes, I titled this video, Biggest Problem in Modern Movies, Women. I've already seen a screenshot of this floating around. God, I love my sense of humor so much. I'm such a lucky man.
Whatever the reason may be, powerful female protagonists such as Rey, Carol Danvers, the reinvented Mulan, and the character that The Rings of Power insists on calling Galadriel, tend to be effortlessly talented and capable, and nearly, if not totally, flawless.
Which is so incredibly cringe and terrible character writing. The point of every character is the struggle.
They are right about everything. They don't need anyone else, and they rarely, if ever, have to overcome any weaknesses. This makes for bland, uninteresting characters who lack depth, nuance, or relatability.
True.
The capacity to power through any situation or obstacle on one's own is not admirable and inspiring. It's unimaginative and boring. Audiences want to see their protagonists struggle and battle their own inner demons. Hence the far stronger interest, for example, in Batman over Superman, despite the latter being the first widely known superhero who basically created the genre.
That's fair. But also, like, if you look at Toph and Katara, these are two of the strongest benders in the entire world. Female characters, and no one makes fun of them. Dude, I love when people say that, oh, you're just a misogynist for making fun of Captain Marvel and Rey from Star Wars and She-Hulk. You're just a misogynist. Bro, where are all the misogynists when they're talking about characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender? Have all the misogynists forgotten about the strong female characters in this show? Or perhaps are they good characters in their own right?
Human beings simply can't relate to unstoppable forces of nature. I should note that, of course, not all competent female characters in modern film are just strong, powerful planks of wood.
Obviously.
Kim Wexler from Better Call Saul.
True! I actually mentioned her. Yo, is this man literally mentioning all of the characters that I've mentioned in my Women Done Right video thingos, whatever they were called? Dude, I literally made an entire segment about Kim Wexler from Better Call Saul. I feel like all the examples he's making are the ones that I've listed. Let's go, baby. Let's go, baby.
And Helly from Severance come to mind as capable, complex, and conflicted characters who are brilliantly written and acted.
One of the most prominent female characters, like well-written OP female characters lately that I've seen in television is Beth Harmon from Queen's Gambit. I think that is such a well-written character. And oh my god, but it's not realistic because all the best chess players in history have been men and this is a woman, the best player in chess. You guys are cringe. She was a fantastically written female character and no one had ever had any complaints with her at all. So obviously it's not coming from a misogynistic standpoint that we don't like strong women. Obviously not, you cringeos.
But in the realm of fantasy, magic, and superpowers, the number of female badasses in modern cinema and TV who are strong and confident while also being flawed and vulnerable are few and far between. So we're going back to the
scene from She-Hulk was such a great example of that exactly. How, Hulk worked for years to develop, and she was just like, oh, I'm Hulk now, I can control myself, I have superpower, I'm awesome.
The early 2000s, and examining how Toph and Katara provide a blueprint to buck this trend, how they manage to be powerful characters who struggle.
True.
They are superbly skilled and capable.
Two of the strongest people in the entire world, like literally. If you look at the characters from here, all the strongest characters were basically women, right? Azula was a woman. She was basically the strongest firebender. Toph is basically the strongest earthbender, and she's a woman. Katara's basically the strongest waterbender, and she's a woman. It's like, hello?
They're also flawed and short-sighted at times. And perhaps most importantly, Toph and Katara provide two examples of authentic femininity while inspiring and endearing themselves to the audience. Let's start with Katara, who embodies so many positive traditional female traits. She is motherly, nurturing, and compassionate.
And annoying as Alright, not a good example.
As with any virtue, however, there is the danger of taking it to an extreme and straying into vice. Katara cares for the group, watches over them, but her instinct to nurture also drives her to be controlling and bossy. In The Runaway, Katara's motherliness is brought up as an irritating trait that the others, Toph in particular, would rather do without, at least initially. When Sokka reveals to Toph that he is
she really develops a lot through the show. Both of them develop so much.
both annoyed by, but also relies on Katara's controlling nature, it's a learning moment for both Toph and for the accidentally eavesdropping Katara. Katara is,
That was
after
a great
all,
scene.
a child. While her inclination to care for the others is beautiful and necessary, she is hampered by a lack of experience and has to learn how to balance being the mother of the group with being a caring friend to each of its members. Virtue is about balance, about finding the golden mean, and Katara has to find a way to guide others with gentleness and compassion in order to reach that desirable middle. If you had to pick one trait to define Katara, though, you'd be off your rocker if the word hope or hopeful didn't immediately spring to mind. Katara is the ultimate supportive character. She is encouraging, affirmative, reassuring, etc. That's Katara in a nutshell.
And way too naive for her own good.
When earthbenders are hunted and enslaved, Katara inspires them with a message of hope. Sure, it doesn't go great at first, but her persistence, her unwavering faith eventually breaks through with a little help. When the group is stranded in the desert, Aang despondent, Toph helpless, and Sokka hallucinating, Katara motivates
Sokka high out of his mind like any rational person should be.
them to keep pushing onward. She is the glue that keeps Team Avatar together that day, providing direction when they are too grief-stricken, guilt-ridden, or cactus-drugged to find it themselves. In The Painted Lady, she alone takes decisive action to renew the health and hope of a town poisoned by the Fire Nation's war machine.
Not gonna lie, that was incredibly cringe. I still think it was cringe of her to do that. But it was so wholesome that she saved it. Yeah, but really, they're fighting a war here for the sake of all of their countries not being wiped out. Like, dog, don't risk it by trying to save these people. I guess I am too cold-hearted and pragmatic, but I think this was one of the examples of when she was annoying as a character. Sadly, I'm sorry. That was incredibly cringe of you to derail them, to risk all of their survival purely for the sake of saving a village when that could possibly hinder your chances of saving the whole world.
Regardless of the bleak
Even though it was annoying as fuck.
outlook of both the villagers and her own brother. While Katara's early show hopefulness shades towards blind optimism, due at least in part to her inexperience in the Fire Nation-dominated world, it gradually matures into a more grounded belief and trust in those around her. Hope is what drives Katara to see the conflict inside Zuko and believe that he can turn from the path that he'd been on for years. And when that hope, that defining virtue of Katara's, is betrayed by Zuko, it inflicts a deep wound that is not easily healed. We see this,
which is what makes the final battle with Azula so good.
It's exemplified, of course, in the Western Air Temple and following episodes, in which Katara is far slower to accept Zuko's change of heart than the rest of the group is. Unlike the others, she has a personal wound inflicted by Zuko that needs time to heal. Notably,
quick question, what's the difference between an isekai OP character or a bad, strong female character? Well, there's a very simple response. Not all isekai OP characters are good characters. You know, I make fun of overpowered characters a lot. I think overpowered characters is the easiest trope to botch. Most overpowered isekai characters are not well written. It's only when there are other aspects that literally make the character right. Yes, Ainz was good. I could list you a bunch that were well written, but I could probably list you even more that weren't. You're never gonna see overpowered done right video about Isekai Smartphone, the guy that died, but God felt bad for him and gave him a smartphone in another world so that he could become strong. It's all about the struggle. Every show, every character that you want to relate to, they have to have some level of struggle. And even if they're overpowered, their struggle needs to come from some other area. In One Punch Man is overpowered, yes, and his struggle isn't, overpowering his adversaries. His struggle is finding value in his life, which is, again, such a powerful mindset and story. You see, this has nothing to do with writing female characters or writing male characters. This is writing characters. Characters need struggle. OP character done right is a character that's OP despite going through all the struggle that they need to become a relatable character.
Though, Toph is quicker to trust Zuko despite the fact that he physically attacked her and injured her. But I guess being able to tell whether or not people are sincere via your earthbending makes a difference there. This is not the only time that Katara is out of sync with the rest of the group on such an issue, though. When Team Avatar happens upon Jet in Ba Sing Se, Katara refuses to believe his story while the others are willing to listen. Katara, more so than any of the group, other than perhaps Aang, is the most trusting, has the strongest belief in the...
It's so hilarious. She is the quickest to fall for somebody, but then if she's betrayed, she's the furthest to forgive them. Like, I think that's good character writing, and the fact that that happens twice in her character just shows that she is a well-written character.
Innate goodness of those she encounters. This belief is so central to her identity that it provokes an unusually forceful emotional response, making her swing to the opposite end of the trusting pendulum. Katara has to learn that trust should not be freely given, but it can be earned, even after it has been broken. It's one thing to forgive and trust someone who has experienced a change of heart and is willing to atone for their sins, but it's quite another for Katara to forgive the man who took her mother away from her. In The Southern Raiders, the episode in which we see Katara finally reconcile with Zuko, she is initially bent on revenge, intending to kill the man who...
She's not OP, just an amazing bender. Excuse me, bloodbending is probably the most overpowered thing in all of Avatar.
...killed Kaya. When Yan Ra is at her mercy, he snivels and bargains, offering his mother in exchange for Katara's, which... Dude. He shows Katara what she could have become would she have followed through on her plans for revenge. How the cycle of violence leaves no room for healing. Ultimately, Katara chooses mercy, not necessarily because Yan Ra doesn't deserve death. I dare say he does, but because it is not her place to mete out death and judgment. She is not a cold-blooded killer. She is, in fact, a healer. No, not that kind of healer. That's better. In a world torn apart by violence, the most powerful of waters possessed by Katara is not used to defeat her enemy, but rather to heal her friend.
Oh, they gave her the healing role? Wow, they really just made this woman character just a healer. Just so cringe.
No, she's literally so good.
J.R.R. Tolkien wrote, "The hands of the king are the hands of a healer," and I like to think that applies to some extent here. Katara's worth as a waterbender does not merely come from her ability to swing a sword, or rather water of various shapes and sizes, but from a full, deep, and authentic understanding of the power she wields. Katara demonstrates true femininity by recognizing water's ability to both destroy and to repair, by living out her calling as a healer in a concrete expression of her caring, motherly nature. This is displayed prominently in the Painted Industrial Saboteur, Painted Lady, where Katara stubbornly refuses to abandon a sick, despondent town to...
Yep, still gonna stand by it. This was a cringe decision, not gonna lie.
While Sokka is focused on the larger picture, on the overall mission, Katara sees the personal, human element of their mission. Her brother sees the forest, she sees the trees, which are withering and dying. Katara forcefully declares, "I will never, ever turn my back on people who need me." It's a beautiful sentiment that emboldens the sense of sympathy and compassion in her brother and friends. However, such standards have their limits. On the day of Black Sun, when their plan has failed, Katara remains insistent that they won't leave anyone behind. She cannot fathom abandoning her father and the others to the Fire Nation prisons. It is only at Hakoda's insistence that she and the others escape safely. Katara learns that her ideals cannot be absolute. They have to be tempered by reality, have to be ordered toward the greater good. It's tempting to contrast Toph and Katara due to their obvious differences in personality and temperament, something Katara quickly discovers after Toph joins the group. However, that wouldn't quite be appropriate, since they both display femininity in unique, yet not opposite ways.
Wait, what? Women characters can display femininity? That's so cringe. What? What?
Be feminine and motherly, and you can be feminine and a tomboy. Femininity cannot be limited to a set of traits
Let's
unique to women,
Master
but rather include
Samwise.
the expression of virtues
Living up to the wise in Samwise.
through a woman's actions. As I noted in my Iroh video, just about every virtue is desirable for both sexes, but they are typically expressed in different ways. Being motherly is not a virtue in and of itself, but rather it is the feminine expression of care, compassion, patience, and a million other virtues. I wrote that line, just to be clear, that's not my wife inflating her own ego. A father such as Iroh can express those virtues in fatherhood, but it looks quite different. But I digress. Let's turn our attentions to Toph. Toph is strong-willed, perseverant, patient, and confident. Most notable, though, is her adaptability, her conversion of her
Toph is such a
disability
good character.
into an ability. Her blindness pushed her to explore a new way to see, to perceive the world as others cannot, and granting her an understanding of the Earth that far surpasses that of other Earthbenders. Toph does not merely wield the earth as a weapon as so many do, she uses it as an extension of herself, as Piandao exhorts Sokka to do with the sword. Rather than allowing her disability to define her, Toph accepts it, acknowledging its advantages and disadvantages, but does not let it
freaking love Toph every time. Oh my god, that over there! And they all look, and she's like, yeah, you idiots, I'm blind.
totally dominate her personality, to the point where her friends sometimes forget what she can and cannot do.
Which is so good, because her entire life and her entire character was that she was someone that was never regarded as someone capable, to the point that her family would tell people that she didn't exist just because they didn't want her to experience the outside world. They only viewed her as the cripple. Her friends, the people that know her for who she truly is, they don't even remember that she's crippled half the time. Frankly, that is such brilliant writing. Holy crap. Actual chills.
However, being capable, not being limited, is one of the things that Toph desires most. While this is a natural, relatable desire, Toph's upbringing pushed it to the point of vice. Once she breaks free from the smothering confines of her childhood home, Toph is insistent that she can go her own way and provide for herself. She does not easily adapt to being part of a team and relying on others. Having not experienced genuine, affirming care and friendship, Toph's gut instinct reaction is to assume that others are coddling her, she pushes back against the perceived insult. In doing so, she demonstrates her immaturity, inexperience, and short-sightedness, showing us how she will need to grow and mature. Toph's attitude, however, is not the only thing that will evolve over the course of her character arc. Her abilities will too. The most obvious point here is Toph's invention of metal bending.
Which is so freaking cool. One of the greatest scenes in the entire show.
Wonderful and amazing in its own right. But I'm actually going to talk more about sand bending. In the library, we learn how sand, being an unfamiliar form of earth for Toph, impedes her ability to sense her surroundings, resulting in Appa's capture by the sandbenders. Toph, unlike so many modern heroines, has a serious weakness, even within her field of expertise, in an area that others have clearly mastered. She doesn't immediately or even quickly learn sand bending.
Which is so
cool. Toph is essentially useless until the group reaches solid ground. However, the show doesn't drop the issue there. Although Toph never...
Right? She learns... It does mention, like, 10, 20 episodes later, I'm gonna practice my sand bending. Like, she's never willing to give up. She's always wants to be the very best, the best there ever was. To catch them is her real test, and to train them is her cause.
Or, if I remember correctly, uses sand bending in combat, she does demonstrate her persistence and patience by showing Aang how she sculpted Ba Sing Se out of sand near the end of the show. This may seem like a minor and insignificant part of her arc, but it highlights how fulfilling it is to have characters with weaknesses. Doing so fleshes them
the beach episode, true.
out, making them more relatable. By seeing our heroes struggle, we sympathize with them, and we are inspired by them when they overcome those challenges and obstacles.
That is how you write a powerful character.
To say, though, that our protagonists should have to grapple with uncertainty, weakness, or what have you in every aspect of their personality.
But they have to grapple with something or they're cringe! That's right, you heard me say it.
They are certainly allowed to have established virtues that they don't have to fight to obtain, at least not so far as we see. And they don't have
The problem is when those virtues are taken to the extreme. Like, you have your Deku characters, like My Hero Academia, where it's like, oh, Deku, he's gonna struggle, is gonna be becoming stronger. But virtuous-wise, no, dude's perfect. Dude has the ultimate perfect virtues.
To further develop these traits. Audiences do want to see characters who possess innate goodness and strength of character. One such pre-established trait of Toph's is her sense of self-worth. As she says in the tale of Toph and Katara, I don't care what I look like. I'm not looking for anyone's approval.
I'm not like the other girls.
Who I am. That level of self-confidence and disregard of others' opinions, especially that of those who really don't know us, is an admirable trait that is far too rare, especially in the age of social media.
Agree. Base take, Mr. Samwise.
Doesn't fall prey to the idea that how she looks, or how others think she looks, has any impact on her value as a person. A clarity of mind that sadly is not present in so many adolescents, especially teenage girls, who are far more likely to suffer from body image issues than are their male counterparts. Toph's confidence and self-assuredness provide us a template of healthy, independent self-worth. But there's a caveat. When those we care about and who care about us have something to say, we should listen. The episode emphasizes this by showing Toph brighten after Katara tells her, "You're actually really pretty." No one exists in a vacuum. We rely on others for so many things, even to help.
Dude, everyone needs affirmation from other people. That's why society exists. Ultimately, you can't just live your life living in the woods, shitting in a tree. Well, the shitting in a tree part you could, but the rest of the living in the woods part, you need people. You need people. You can't be a loner forever. You can't just subscribe to e-girls and think that that's all there is to it.
They have to be those people who truly know and love us. That brings me neatly back to Toph's I can take care of myself attitude. So let's turn our attention to the finale of the show, in which Toph, Sokka, and Suki wreak havoc on the Fire Nation's airship fleet with an airship slice, and where we see the payoff for Toph's character development in this area. The child who, having gained her independence, wanted to be totally self-reliant, has matured into a capable member of a team. As mentioned, Toph is supremely capable. Her persistence and patience enabled her to become an expert earthbender and invent an entire new kind of bending.
Which is so cool.
It is not until she joins Team Avatar that Toph's ability is given direction and purpose beyond mere self-expression. In joining the group and their cause, Toph learned to surrender the full and total self-control she had long desired. This is beautifully displayed as she embraces Sokka's leadership as they fight their way through the Fire Nation fleet. No longer stubbornly independent, she is now an individual with an essential role and irreplaceable ability that is ordered toward the good of the team, and indeed, the whole world. When Sokka, recognizing the danger of falling debris on top of Toph, shielding her body with his, Toph accepts this protective action, not necessarily because she needs it, but because she acknowledges the gesture of self-sacrifice from Sokka, who himself has had to undergo significant character development to become the servant.
I have to make an underpowered done right for Sokka. I don't want to insult my boy here, but underpowered done right for Sokka would be a solid video.
Leader he now is, but that's a topic for another video. It's important to remember that Toph's road to this point of emotional maturity, of reliance on others, was not easy or quick. Returning to our discussion of Katara's tyrannical motherliness, I have put it, we must note that there were two parties in that conflict. Toph's aggressive resistance to Katara's overbearing nature showed that her sense of independence has a downside. While being confident in one's decisions and having faith in one's abilities is undoubtedly a good thing, for Toph it can stray into arrogance and an unearned feeling of invulnerability.
Wait, what? You mean these are overpowered female characters and they actually have flaws? You mean they're not perfect in every possible way? But what will the women think about that? Could women even relate to characters that have flaws?
Independence should not mean the freedom to do whatever we want with no consequences, but rather the freedom to do what we should. That is a crucial lesson that Toph has to and does learn. For the final note on Toph, let's return to her adaptability, particularly as displayed in Bitter Work, an episode that develops Aang and Toph's characters in an incredible way. Aang's arc during the episode is more obvious and stated outright. He needs to stop thinking like an airbender and just stand his ground in order to learn earthbending.
See, but Toph needs to look at it from someone else's perspective. It's not just about you.
However, the subtextual arc is Toph learning to think like an airbender in order to teach Aang.
Yes.
After her initial attempts have failed, Toph has to find a different angle and resort to more creative methods to break through Aang's mental block.
It's a very rare thing that happens in fiction when you have the character arc from the student's perspective, and the student has to learn all these new things. I really love a show that shows you the growth of the teacher as well. It's like the Kung Fu Panda, Shifu learning how to train Po. Like, that's just so beautiful because every student is different, and I feel like the world that we live in today is very homogenized into shoving people down systems where they only have their one way. It's their way or the highway. You follow the school system and that's it, baby. You don't have any possible growth in your own right or in your own way. But the individuality that a lot of people have, and like, it's so funny that social media in general tries so hard to preach individuality but doesn't do anything about it. A teacher learning to adapt to the student. Such a powerful lesson that I feel like would be really nice if it had in real life, you know?
Like Iroh teaches, it is only by studying the other elements and the other nations that one can become whole. Katara is compassionate, caring, hopeful, trusting, and nurturing, as well as strong-willed, persistent, and passionate.
I'm nurturing. Aren't I nurturing, chat? Come on, chat. What do you think nurturing? Do you think of anyone before me? Thank you, chat, for agreeing.
Capable, self-assured, and independent, as well as patient, adaptable, and vulnerable. When these traits are properly ordered and balanced, our heroines triumph. When they are not, they struggle. It's crucial to write characters who do both in order to have the audience relate to and be inspired by the people on screen.
It's not inspiring to see someone perfect. It's literally not. You're not going to get any internet or real-life brownie points by creating a character that's just perfect in every way.
Fantasy such as Avatar can aspire to by showing us characters with relatable struggles that ascend to inhuman heights. While so many modern female characters are written with the intent to inspire, their invincibility, their unfailing competence, their lack of emotional depth and personal struggle, and their ability to...
That was a joke, obviously. That was for comedy purposes. Oh god, I'm gonna get obliterated by these clippers on Twitter.
Somehow be right about everything makes them unrelatable and boring. The near universal love for Toph and Katara is proof that audiences of all ages and both genders appreciate and are inspired by badass female characters. They just need to be written.
Badasses is my favorite gender.
With care, attention, and love.
That was a good video. I liked it. Let's freaking go.